Hi, I'm Andy. A little bit about me. I'm married. I have 2 kids and 4 grandkids. I've spent most of my life in manufacturing, the last 20 some years in manufacturing management. I drive for both Uber and Lyft, and to date I've done about 1,600 rides. Well, a few years ago, we had a little bit of credit card debt due to some medical bills and such, and being working in management, I was on kind of a fixed income, and I was looking for other ways to earn a little bit of extra money. I had a decent car. I enjoyed driving, so I thought, well, I'd give Rideshare a shot, and it worked out. In about 10 or 11 months, I had paid off all our credit card debt, plus put some savings in the bank. Well, I think my most interesting ride was just a few weeks ago. I picked up a gentleman from the airport. Uh, he was he was Scottish, but he lived in Monaco. He kind of goofs off for a living now. He flew into Minneapolis and needed a ride down to Rochester to the Mayo Clinic for his annual physical. Uh, we So we had about an hour and a half together. He sat up in the front seat with me, and we just had a nice long visit about the factories that he owns in the United Kingdom. He was the vice president of a whiskey club, and so we talked a lot about some of the finer spirits, and it was probably one of my more memorable rides. I think initially my biggest challenge was dealing with the other drivers out on the road, not rideshare drivers, but drivers in general, because when you get into rush hour, uh, people get in a big hurry, and not everybody on the road is all that courteous, especially when you're driving downtown. People are trying to get to work, so it's a little bit of a it was a bit of a learning experience to probably to control my temper and uh, deal with uh, deal with the other drivers on the road, the angry drivers. But I think that the experience with driving rideshare has really worked to make me a better driver and more alert and of my surroundings and of the other people and the behaviors of other drivers. I don't think I've received any really big tips. Maybe about $30. I I find out that when I got a nicer vehicle, I used to drive a Nissan Altima, which it was all leather. It was a one of the higher end Altimas they have out there, and it was real nice. But now I drive a newer Explorer. It's all leather, has all the bells and whistles, and I find that with that, obviously I'm able to drive higher class of rides rather than just the X or basic lift. But so most of the time I drive XL or Lux, and I find that I get a lot of compliments on the car, and I think that I get quite a bit better tips. So uh, in a given day I get several tips in the $10 to $20 range. Um, I think the car and the way I keep it probably has a lot to do with that, plus the way I treat the customers. Um, about $450 in one shift. That was actually just on the Uber X and Basic Lyft platform. And I did about 12 hours in a snowstorm. I had new snow tires on the car, so I wasn't afraid of the roads, and I did really good that day. On the weekends, I have a lot of $300, $350 days, but I think about $450 was probably the best. I prefer Lyft, actually. I do drive both, but when possible, I do mostly Lyft when it's busy enough. I think the culture of the company has always been a little bit better. I think it's just the culture and the way they treat. I think they treat the drivers a little bit better. I think the culture of the customers when Lyft and Uber both first came to the Twin Cities. At that time, there was definitely a difference in the culture of the riders, and so I've always preferred Lyft. I've gotten better response from their customer service, even though for the longest time they didn't have a representative right here in the area, but I always got good response on the phone and over the internet from them. So I think Lyft takes a little bit less cut out of a driver's pay. I think they're a little bit more fair with the customers for pricing, and ultimately, mile for mile, I've always made more off the Lyft platform than I have the Uber platform. I'd say there's two of them that are kind of equal. One of them is chasing the surge, and the other one is sitting at the airport waiting endlessly for what could be a $4 trip to the Mall of America from the airport. When I do a lot of drop-offs at the airport, if the lot's full, or if I really want to get a ride out of the airport, I turn all options on. I have that luxury since I can drive 3 levels of service on 2 different platforms. I take the first ride out of there I can get. 9 times out of 10, I don't wait in the airport lot because it's jam-packed with people, so I just take off and head to an area that for me has been historically good. Be nice to people. Treat them with respect. We are in a service industry. I know that the drivers are out there to earn money for themselves, but we are in a service industry, so it's our job to serve other people. I find that by reading online forums and stuff, there's a lot of people that complain about not getting very many tips or anything. I get a lot of tips, but I treat every person the same, and I treat every person special. I'm there to make sure they get a safe, comfortable ride wherever they're going, and I try to, if they're willing, I engage them in conversation. If they want to be left alone, I leave them alone. But I treat them all with respect, and I find that some of the people that are busy on their phone and don't want to talk, or for whatever reason don't want to talk, a lot of the times they're the ones that'll throw you a $10 or $20 tip just because you provided them a safe, comfortable ride and you treated them the way they wanted to be treated.